They were not kidding. Degenbrecher is not built different. She is built correctly. And the term one-woman army has perhaps described no one in Arknights better than her. Except maybe Tallulah. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. We've waited 2 years for more Kjarr content, and since Break the Ice established the region, I've been looking forward to the next Winter Wonderland adventure, and Lake Silberneherze, which shall henceforth be the Degenbrecher event, most certainly delivers. Taking a departure from Break the Ice's more serious tone, and giving us respite from Zwilling Storm, this event leans into the comedy, and this comedy routine gives us a very interesting story of political intrigue without bagging itself down on such heavy topics and keeping the pacing at a very reasonable speed. Taking place 3 years after the events of Break the Ice, life in Kjarr has changed quite a lot. The advancement of technology has brought about the greatest of inventions: trains. And yes, train rides are the very basis for the name of this event. So what's the story? Well, the people of Kjarr have built a great statue to honor their god, Kjarr, and are hosting a celebration in order to formally announce its opening to the world. But life can't be simple, for many years ago, Silverash made a deal with the Duke of Castor in order to set up Kjarr trade. And the Duke is looking for a return on her investment. As such, Harold, an old Victorian war veteran, and his private army, alongside a Trilby Asher, have been sent to Kjarr in order to collect on this debt. And all they need is probable cause. So that's where the story begins. And with that fairly serious background set up, hilarity ensues. The rest of the story is pretty simple. Degenbrecher and our main cast get into ever more improbable chase sequences before a great battle occurs at the end, putting Degenbrecher against an entire army. Also, our main subplot involves Leto from Children of Ursa's fame, returning to Kjarr to fulfill her mother's wishes, and get retribution on her father, local Kjarr man, Arctosz. A pretty solid subplot, and one really well integrated into the narrative by Silverash's deception of the Trilby Asher. So there really isn't any waste in this event. And much of the comedy comes from our serious characters being placed into misunderstandings, which leads to a very enjoyable series of events. So let's talk about those characters. And there's a lot of them, so we gotta prioritize. 4 characters stand out the most to me: Leto, Harold, the Trilby Asher, and of course Degenbrecher. Returning from Children of Ursa, Leto is a very interesting character. As mentioned earlier, she's in Kjarr on family business, finding her dad and completing her mother's wishes, unintentionally convincing multiple people that her mom was actually dead, which does give her character a bit more of a somber tone at the beginning of the story, until we learn that she actually messed up her words. Despite her upbeat vibe, she's been through a lot, shocking even Arctosz with what she's done to survive. And don't get it twisted either, she doesn't forgive her father, even shoving him off a cliff at some point in the story, before dropping the big bombshell of, "Dad, you've been missing for 19 years, where's my goddamn child support" on him at the end of the event. And while we're on the topic of deadbeat dads, Arctosz was pretty good in the event. I did enjoy him very much caring for his daughter, and even though the relationship is probably strained beyond repairing, I am glad that he does care about her. Whether they'll have anything to do with each other in the future, who knows? But at least this event gave us one thing to like about Arctosz: his ex-wife. Harold is a really fascinating addition to the Arknights lineup. The old man is a family man and veteran true and true, making friends and helping those around him at all times. Hell, even the initial chase Degenbrecher goes on is to hunt him down, cause a burden beast Lily was giving birth. Although, if a scary woman was chasing you down, you'd probably run too. Not me though, that's why I'm here. His loyalty to Victoria is what adds many dimensions to this character. Throughout the event, he tries his best to reach an agreement with Silverash on the matter of his debt. He even offers to accept bad terms for their arrangement in order to resolve the conflict peacefully. And when the Trilby Asher reveals the military weapons stored in Kjarr, he's forced into action. Even though he doesn't want to, even though it goes against what he believes in, he remains loyal. to Victoria, and that arguably makes him the best written character in the event. Although we all have our biases, and I'm sure by the title of this video, you can tell what mine is. Transitioning away from Harold though, and towards the family that caused him to arrive in Kjarr, the very much functional Silverash family. In the 3 years since Break the Ice, their relationship still hasn't thawed. I'll see myself out. Terrible puns aside, Paramanics and Silverash are still at each other's throats, but are generally cordial with each other. Their relationship isn't the primary focus here, but they have the same goal, and they do get to put Harold in the very, very unenviable position of trying to mediate between two arguing siblings. Very cool Silverashes never change. That aside, both Paramanics and Silverash have great relationships with other characters, Kjarr and Gnosis and Degenbrecher respectively. Kjarr specifically has a great running gag throughout this event, which is that the statue built in her honor doesn't exactly look like her, and she very much wants it trimmed down. And luckily, there is a local goat woman very much willing to help her out with that. But before we can get to the woman of the hour, we gotta talk about the character I had the most fun reading about during this event, the Trilby Asher. Mr. Bellingham, the very same Trilby Asher who dealt with Rhodes Island and Siege during the events of the main story. And he has a great time during this event. Firstly, suffering the wrath of Degenbrecher after encountering her on the train, before suffering deception from Silverash, convincing him that Leto is far more important to Kjarr's operation than she really is, before getting almost killed by Degenbrecher in yet another chase, before finally getting a W upon discovering Kjarr's military goods, and then immediately discovering the Casimir's envoys rushing in to ruin his plans. It was glorious. Our serious spy got actually bullied by the wonderful people of Kjarr, and I would absolutely love to read nothing but it again. And finally, our titular unit, mentioned repeatedly throughout this video, Degenbrecher, the 3-time major winner, finally takes center stage in this event. And it's wonderful. Whether it comes to skiing or jumping onto moving trains, the goat woman is always built correctly. We get to see our very serious ex-knight put into situations where her blunt personality allows for plenty of comedic moments. Her journey throughout the entirety of this event is simply cementing her place and role within Kjarr. No longer an outsider, all within Kjarr, including its god, view her as one of Kjarr's greatest citizens. Throughout the event, she performs many tasks for Kjarr and her people, including helping with the pregnancy of a burdened beast, and then immediately hunting down Harold to perform aftercare, tracking down and then accosting a highly trained spy, shaving a 30-meter tall stone statue down to size for Kjarr herself, and finally taking on an entire Victorian army, literally 1,000 to 1. She doesn't necessarily win this battle, but she does stall long enough for Silverash's plan to fall into place. So overall, a pretty solid track record. Not to mention her performance in Break the Ice, which made many of us fall in love with her. Or we just saw the CG on screen and immediately thought it should have been me, not him. One of my favorite, I suppose, dynamics is at the very end, where we get to see Degenbrecher facing off against Harold. And in this moment, we see the two sides of loyalty. Loyalty to one's country, both in a positive and negative sense. And these two sides do, of course, come to blows. On Degenbrecher's behalf, her loyalty is well founded. Those around her and her herself both have the same goals, whereas Harold is very much acting against his own best interests, which sucks for Harold, but it is a very compelling comparison between the two characters. And to round out the video, just little mention on the big reveal at the end. Kjarr's got its own battleship. Just one, nothing like Victoria's fleet, but the little country has finally taken its first real step towards standing on Terra's stage. Only time will tell if it survives the growing pains it no doubt must go through in the coming years, but I am very much looking forward to seeing what comes of it, and I'm sure it will get more focus in the future. Whether this duology turns into a trilogy, we don't know, but I can only hope, especially because there's still quite a few characters in this region that I would like to see become units. Other than that, that's about it for this event. Overall, I'd say it was a pretty great event. The comedy focus, the character focus, all rolled together fantastically, and I won't say it was the most enjoyable event we've had all year, but it's definitely up there. All event stuff aside, I want to ask you a question. Do you think these videos, these reviews, need more of a story summary focus, or are you happy enough focusing on characters? Maybe it's something that needs to be adjusted per event. I'll let you, if you get to the end of this video, throw an answer to that down in the comments below. Y'all be good people, and I will talk to you in the next one. So like, I've been mostly good, but Degenbrecher, goddamn, I wanted to do unspeakable things, stuff that would get me demonetized if I was monetized, stuff that would get me banned if I decided to share them. Y'all don't understand how much I need the Goat Woman backshots.